Excellence is not a moment of greatness. It's not some lightning strike of inspiration. It's not about catching that big break or having some stroke of luck. No, real excellence is a lifestyle. It's built in the small, quiet decisions you make every single day. It's in the habits you choose to keep, the standards you refuse to lower, and the effort you pour in when nobody's watching. That's where true excellence is built. Most people out there, they've got it all wrong. They think success is about talent or luck. They believe the people at the top have some special advantage, a gift, a head start, better circumstances. But that's just an illusion. The people who achieve lasting success, the ones who climb to the top and stay there, they've mastered the art of daily excellence. They've turned consistency into a habit. And that's what makes them unstoppable. Because you see, success is never built in a day. It's built in those daily choices you make when nobody's paying attention. It's built in the early mornings, the late nights, the extra effort you're willing to put in when everyone else is taking it easy. It's built in the decision to show up even when the mood isn't right, when the energy's low, when the inspiration just isn't there. It's built in the grit to push through resistance and stick to the process day after day. And here's what most people miss. Excellence isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. It's not about getting it right every time. It's about showing up and giving your best effort day in and day out. It's about setting a standard for yourself that is non-negotiable. A mindset that says, I don't lower my standards to match the world. I raise my standards to shape the world. Excellence is not a feeling. It's not something you chase. It's something you become. It's built through the habits you repeat, through the standards you hold yourself to when nobody's looking. It's not about relying on motivation. It's about running on discipline. It's not about waiting for the right moment. It's about creating momentum through consistent action. Because when you develop the habit of daily excellence, success stops being a chase. It starts being something you attract. It becomes inevitable. You set a standard so high, you stop competing with others and start competing with yourself. Now, how do you build that mindset? How do you create those habits and systems that allow you to operate at a higher standard automatically? How do you make excellence so ingrained in your character that it becomes who you are, not just something you do when the mood strikes? That's what we're going to talk about. Not theories, not vague ideas, but practical habits you can apply immediately. Habits that have been tested and proven. Habits that will rewire your mind, sharpen your focus, and elevate your performance. Because excellence is not a destination. It's not a result. It's a way of being. And once you learn how to master it every single day, you will separate yourself from the crowd. Now, the first habit of daily excellence is mastering your mornings. Because the way you start your day determines the way you live your day. If you begin with discipline, focus, and purpose, those qualities will flow into everything else you do. But if you start your day in a reactive state, hitting the snooze button, stumbling out of bed, rushing through your morning routine like you're running late for the bus, you're setting yourself up for distraction, procrastination, and inconsistency. Excellence begins before the world even stirs. It starts in those early quiet hours when most people are still chasing dreams under their blankets. It begins when you decide to take control of the first moments of your day. Because if you can win the morning, you can win the day. But here's the key. It's not just about waking up early. It's about how you wake up. The best performers in the world don't just roll out of bed and hope for the best. They wake up with intention. They start their day with purpose, not by accident. And before they do anything else, they prime their mind for excellence. Some of them use affirmations, speaking strength and focus into existence. Some take a few minutes to journal, clearing their mind and sharpening their purpose. Others meditate, calming their thoughts and setting their intention for the day. Some stretch or exercise, getting the blood flowing, waking up their physiology. But despite their differences, they all have one thing in common. They control their first thoughts, their first actions, and their first priorities. They decide how their day begins. And that decision sets the standard for everything else. If you want to master daily excellence, your mornings must be non-negotiable. You've got to create a routine that strengthens your mindset, energizes your body, and locks your focus onto what matters most. And here's the best part. It doesn't take hours of preparation. Even 10 minutes of focused morning practice can rewire your brain and shift the entire direction of your day. But here's the trap most people fall into. They wait until they feel like doing it. They wait for motivation to get up early. They wait until they feel energized to start strong. But that's not how excellence works. If you wait to feel ready, you'll stay stuck right where you are. Excellence isn't about waiting. It's about acting. It's about training yourself to wake up and move, regardless of how you feel. Now, here's one of the simplest yet most powerful habits you can develop. Get up the moment your alarm goes off. No hesitation, no negotiation. Because the moment you hit snooze, you're training your mind to procrastinate. You're conditioning yourself to break commitments. And that weakness, that hesitation, will bleed into everything else you do. But if you make waking up immediately a rule, no debate, no delay, you build the habit of instant execution. You train your mind to act when it's time to act. And when you start your day with discipline, you carry that discipline into your work, your goals, your decisions. When you start your day with focus, you train your brain to filter out distractions. When you start your day with energy, you perform at a higher level in everything you do. Success doesn't begin with big achievements. It begins with small, intentional choices. And if you can master your mornings, you gain control over the rest of your day. And once you master your days, you gain control over your life. The next habit of daily excellence is controlling your focus. Because your attention, it's your most valuable resource. Whatever you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, you create more stress. If you focus on distractions, you waste time and energy. But if you direct your attention toward growth, execution, and results, your actions will align with success. That's the difference. Most people go through life without ever training their focus. They wake up with good intentions, but by the end of the day, they're left wondering where all their time went. Excellence doesn't work that way. It requires deliberate control over what gets your attention. It requires intention, purpose, clarity. Now, the people who dominate in life, they're not necessarily smarter or more talented. They simply know how to eliminate distractions and lock in on what matters. They don't let the outside world dictate their priorities. They don't allow every message, every request, or every little interruption to pull them away from their mission. They understand something most people never figure out. If you don't control your attention, something else will. If you want to reach your highest potential, you've got to train your mind to focus like a laser. And the best way to do that, set clear rules for your attention. Create boundaries around your focus. Build walls that keep distractions out. This means blocking out time for deep work. Protecting your focus as if it's the most important thing in your life. Because it is. Excellence isn't built by being busy. It's built in the moments when you choose discipline over distraction. Here's a simple truth. Every time you say no to something meaningless and say yes to your mission, you reinforce the habit of concentration. And that's powerful. Because distractions don't just waste your time. They drain your energy. And energy, that's your fuel for excellence. Every time you switch tasks, your brain has to recalibrate. It takes effort to refocus. And this constant task switching is why most people feel exhausted at the end of the day, even if they didn't accomplish much. They spent their time jumping from one thing to the next, never fully locked in, never fully present. But the highest performers, they operate differently. They create blocks of deep, uninterrupted work. They train their brain to stay on one task for extended periods of time. And as a result, they get more done in a few focused hours than most people do in an entire day of scattered effort. If you want to rewire your mind for excellence, you've got to learn to guard your focus like it's gold. You start by removing the biggest sources of distraction in your life. You control your environment. You become ruthless with your time. And most importantly, you develop the discipline to keep your attention on one thing at a time. Because here's the secret. When you learn to control your focus, you gain control over your life. And when you gain control over your life, excellence becomes inevitable. The next habit of daily excellence is mastering your self-discipline. Because discipline, that's the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not intelligence. It's not about having the perfect conditions. The people who win in life are the ones who can make themselves do what needs to be done, especially when they don't feel like it. That's the real separator. Most people rely on motivation. They wait until they feel inspired. They wait until the conditions are perfect. They wait until they're in the mood. And that's why they stay stuck. Because motivation is temporary. It's unpredictable. It's like the weather. It comes and goes. But discipline is permanent. Discipline is something you build. Discipline is a muscle. And just like any muscle, the more you train it, the stronger it gets. But here's the other side of it. If you don't use it, it weakens. It fades. Every time you make an excuse, every time you procrastinate, every time you let yourself off the hook, you're making that muscle weaker. But every time you follow through, every time you push yourself, every time you keep a commitment, you strengthen it. And here's the secret to building discipline. Eliminate negotiation. Most people lose the battle before they even begin because they allow their mind to negotiate. Should I go to the gym or take the day off? Should I work on my goals or just relax? Should I do it now or later? That back and forth drains your energy. It gives your mind an opportunity to find an excuse. And excuses are nothing but permission to fail. The best performers, they don't negotiate with themselves. They don't wait for motivation. They don't ask how they feel. They don't debate whether they should follow through. They just do it. Why? Because it's who they are. Because they've trained themselves to act automatically. They've built habits so strong that action becomes a reflex, not a choice. Discipline is about making a decision once and then never debating it again. It's setting a standard and living up to it day after day. If you decide you're the kind of person who wakes up early, then when the alarm goes off, there's no discussion. It's already decided. If you decide you're the kind of person who works out daily, then that's non-negotiable. If you decide you're the kind of person who follows through on commitments, then it doesn't matter how you feel in the moment. The decision is made. The action is taken. And here's how you build it. Start small. Make tiny commitments to yourself every day. Something as simple as making your bed, drinking water first thing in the morning, or sticking to a set routine. Because every time you keep a small promise to yourself, you train your mind to follow through. And that consistency carries over into bigger decisions, bigger goals, and bigger results. Now, here's the truth about discipline. It's not about doing things perfectly. It's about doing them consistently. Some days are going to be harder than others. Some days, the last thing you'll want to do is stick to the plan. But those are the days that matter most. Those are the days that build the kind of discipline that separates you from everyone else. Because anyone can follow through when they feel like it. Anyone can take action when motivation is high. But the people who win, they're the ones who do what needs to be done, even when they don't feel like it. That's the difference. That's what real discipline looks like. And that's what daily excellence requires. The next habit of daily excellence is developing relentless consistency. Because most people, they start strong. They get excited. They commit to new habits. They feel unstoppable. But then life happens. Their energy dips. They miss a day, then two, then three. And before they know it, they're right back where they started. Back to square one. Excellence isn't about what you do once in a while. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency. It's better to do something small every single day than to go all out for a week and then quit. That's not how real success is built. The highest performers in the world aren't the ones who go the hardest in short bursts. They are the ones who show up day after day, no matter what. Consistency is the foundation of everything. Great success. In any area, fitness, business, personal growth, relationships, comes down to your ability to keep showing up. Even when the motivation is gone, even when the results aren't immediate, even when nobody else is watching. Most people fail because they expect results too quickly. They put in the effort for a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months. But when they don't see instant progress, they assume it's not working. They tell themselves it's not worth it. But that's not how success happens. Growth isn't linear. The results don't show up right away. They compound over time. And if you quit too soon, you never reach the breakthrough. You never see the rewards of your efforts. The people who achieve excellence understand this. They don't stop just because the results aren't showing up immediately. They keep going. They trust the process. They know that consistency creates momentum, and momentum leads to massive transformation. And momentum, that's the force that makes progress effortless. Once it's built, it's hard to stop. The key to relentless consistency is removing the decision-making process. Because when something is optional, it becomes negotiable. But when it's a must, it gets done no matter what. You don't wake up and wonder if you should brush your teeth. You don't debate whether or not to get dressed. You just do it. Because it's part of who you are. It's automatic. If you want to be consistent, you have to treat your habits the same way. Working on your goals is not optional. Training your body is not optional. Following through on your commitments is not optional. You don't do it when it's convenient. You don't do it when you feel like it. You do it because that's the standard you've set for yourself. And here's the mistake most people make. They rely on willpower. But willpower is unreliable. It fluctuates. Some days it's strong. Some days it's weak. And if your success depends on how much willpower you have in the moment, you'll always struggle to stay consistent. The solution: create systems. Because systems make success automatic. They remove the friction between you and the action you need to take. They make it easier to be consistent. Because you don't have to think about it. You just follow the plan. A system could be a set time every day for your most important habit. It could be preparing in advance so that taking action becomes effortless. It could be tracking your progress to reinforce your commitment. Whatever it is, the goal is the same. Take the decision out of the process so that consistency becomes natural. And here's another secret to consistency. Lower the barrier to entry. Most people set themselves up for failure by making their goals too overwhelming. They tell themselves they need to work out for an hour, write for 3 hours, or make huge progress every single day. And when life gets busy, those expectations become impossible to maintain. Excellence isn't about going all out. It's about never stopping. Even if you only have 10 minutes, do something. Even if you're tired, take some action. Even if you're not at your best, keep the streak alive. Because the moment you stop completely, it becomes easier to quit. But if you keep the habit alive, no matter how small, you maintain your momentum. And momentum is everything. But here's the truth. Consistency isn't about perfection. You will have days where you slip up. You will have moments where life gets in the way. That's normal. What matters is that you get back on track immediately. Because most people let one missed day turn into a missed week, then a missed month, and then they're back at zero. The ones who master consistency never let one mistake break their momentum. If you want to build relentless consistency, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. You have to see yourself as the kind of person who follows through no matter what. You have to make your habits non-negotiable and remove the mental debate. And most importantly, you have to keep going even when you don't see results right away. Because consistency is what separates those who try from those who succeed. And if you can master consistency, you can master anything. The next habit of daily excellence is setting and maintaining high personal standards. Because your standards, they dictate your results. You don't get what you want in life. You get what you tolerate. If you accept mediocrity, that's exactly what you'll experience. If you demand excellence from yourself, your life will rise to meet that standard. That's how it works. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They lower their standards to match their environment. They adapt to the people around them. If they work in a lazy, unmotivated culture, they start making excuses. If they surround themselves with average thinkers, they start thinking small. If they see others cutting corners, they start doing the same. They let their surroundings determine their standards. And that's a recipe for failure. But real excellence, it's not about adapting to your environment. It's about setting the standard regardless of what's happening around you. It's about refusing to accept anything less than your best effort. It's about holding yourself accountable to a higher level of discipline, focus, and execution. It's about being the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the temperature, you set the standard. Your personal standards determine the way you show up every single day. If your standard is to do the bare minimum, that's exactly what you'll do. If your standard is to only take action when you feel like it, you'll stay inconsistent. But if your standard is to perform at your highest level, no matter the circumstances, you will separate yourself from the majority. Because excellence isn't about being perfect. It's about consistently striving to operate at the highest level possible. It's about choosing discipline when others choose excuses. It's about choosing focus when others choose distractions. It's about choosing to push yourself further when others would stop. And here's the biggest mistake most people make. They let their feelings dictate their standards. They say, I'll do it when I feel ready, or I'll put in more effort when the results start showing. But that's backwards. Excellence is built by sticking to your standards even when the motivation isn't there. High standards are about non-negotiables. These are the things you commit to doing no matter what. If your standard is to be disciplined with your health, then skipping workouts is not an option. If your standard is to be focused in your work, then distractions are not entertained. If your standard is to be reliable, then following through on commitments is mandatory. You must decide what your non-negotiables are. And once you do, you enforce them ruthlessly. Because every time you lower your standards, even slightly, you reinforce the habit of making excuses. But every time you hold the line, you reinforce the identity of someone who does what they say they will do. And that's how you build character. That's how you build excellence. One of the fastest ways to raise your standards is to change your environment. Because if you spend time around people who accept average effort, it's only a matter of time before you do the same. But if you surround yourself with people who demand more from themselves, who operate at a high level every day, you will naturally elevate. Excellence is contagious. If you put yourself in an environment where high standards are the norm, you won't have to force yourself to rise. You'll rise automatically. You won't tolerate laziness. You won't tolerate inconsistency. You won't tolerate mediocrity because it will no longer feel normal to you. But let's be clear. Your environment is only part of the equation. The real test of your standards happens when no one is watching. When there's no one there to hold you accountable. When it would be easy to cut corners, to slack off, to give less than your best. That's when your standards truly matter. Discipline is doing the right thing when no one would know if you didn't. It's pushing yourself even when there's no immediate reward. It's holding yourself to a higher level even when no one else does. That's what separates the great from the average. That's what separates the winners from the ones who fall short. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they lower their standards when things get hard. They let their emotions dictate their effort. They let setbacks make them quit. But the ones who succeed, they maintain their standards through every challenge, every failure, every obstacle. If you want to master daily excellence, you must raise your standards in every area of life, in the way you work, in the way you train, in the way you handle adversity, in the way you treat others. Every moment is an opportunity to reinforce the identity of someone who refuses to accept anything less than the best from themselves. And that's the kind of person who wins. The next habit of daily excellence is training your ability to take decisive action. Because most people, they hesitate, they overthink, they second guess. They analyze every possible outcome before making a move. And in that hesitation, opportunities are lost. Momentum is killed. Progress is delayed. Excellence is built on speed of execution, the ability to decide and take action without hesitation, the ability to trust yourself enough to make a move even when you don't have all the answers, the ability to step forward, take risks, and adjust along the way. The people who win in life, they're not the ones who make perfect decisions. They're the ones who make fast decisions. They don't wait for the stars to align. They don't waste time debating whether they should start. They don't sit around in analysis paralysis. They act. And because they act, they create momentum. And momentum, that's what drives everything. Hesitation is a habit. And the problem is, every time you delay, every time you hesitate, every time you put off a decision, you reinforce the habit of inaction. Your brain starts associating decision-making with stress, with overthinking, with fear. And eventually, it becomes harder and harder to take action on anything. You've got to rewire that habit. And the fastest way to do it is simple. Train yourself to act instantly. The moment you know you need to do something, move. If you need to speak up in a meeting, do it before you talk yourself out of it. If you need to make an important call, do it before doubt creeps in. If you need to start on a task, do it before your brain has time to find an excuse. Because the longer you wait, the harder it gets. The more you hesitate, the more your mind finds reasons not to act. But when you build the habit of moving immediately, you take away the power of hesitation. You condition yourself to be someone who takes action no matter what. And here's the biggest lie people tell themselves. They need more time to think, more time to plan, more time to prepare. But in reality, most of the time, thinking more doesn't lead to better decisions. It leads to no decision. It leads to overanalyzing, second-guessing, and ultimately staying stuck. Decisiveness is a skill. And like any skill, it gets stronger the more you train it. The more you make quick, firm decisions, the more confident you become in your ability to figure things out. The more you trust yourself to take action, the more you realize you don't need all the answers. You just need to start. Now, here's the key to decisive action. Trust your instincts. Most of the time, you already know what needs to be done. Your gut tells you. Your experience tells you. But instead of acting, you hesitate. You let doubt creep in. You let fear of making the wrong choice paralyze you. And in that hesitation, you lose momentum. But the most successful people in the world, they act on instinct. They trust themselves. They know that even if they make a wrong move, they can adjust. They don't fear mistakes because they know mistakes are just part of the process. And because they don't hesitate, they move faster. They accomplish more. They gain more experience. Hesitation kills momentum. And momentum is the key to success. When you're in motion, everything gets easier. Discipline gets easier. Confidence gets stronger. Progress happens faster. But when you hesitate, you slow yourself down. You create resistance where there should be none. You turn simple decisions into impossible ones. Here's a simple way to train decisive action. Use the 5-second rule. The moment you know you need to act, count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move. Speak. Start. Take the first step before your mind has a chance to convince you not to. Because the hardest part of anything is starting. But once you start, momentum takes over. You no longer have to force yourself. You just keep moving. And the more you train yourself to start without hesitation, the easier it becomes to take action in every area of your life. If you want to achieve excellence, you must master the ability to act. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when you have more information. No, because every great achievement, every success story, every breakthrough started with a single decisive action. And that's how you build momentum. That's how you win. The next habit of daily excellence is building mental toughness. Because excellence isn't just about skill. It's about resilience. It's about how well you handle pressure, adversity, and setbacks. Because no matter how talented you are, no matter how hard you work, life is going to test you. Challenges will come. Obstacles will appear. And if you don't have the mental strength to push through, you'll break under the weight of resistance. Now, here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Most people are soft. The moment things get hard, they fold. The moment they hit discomfort, they quit. The moment they experience failure, they retreat. And that's why they never reach their full potential. Because they give up too soon. They've never trained their mind to endure. Mental toughness is the ability to keep moving forward no matter what. To perform at a high level even when you don't feel like it. To stay locked in on your goals even when nothing seems to be working. To push past pain, frustration, and fatigue because you refuse to settle for anything less than what you're capable of. The biggest enemy of mental toughness is comfort. When you make life too easy for yourself, you become weak. When you avoid challenges, you stop growing. When you protect yourself from discomfort, you never build the calluses that make you unbreakable. So what's the fastest way to build mental toughness? Put yourself in difficult situations on purpose. Do hard things every day. Challenge yourself in ways that force you to grow. Because the more you expose yourself to difficulty, the stronger you become. The more you push yourself past your limits, the more you realize that your limits were never real to begin with. Every time you push through discomfort, you rewire your mind. Every time you keep going when you want to stop, you train your brain to be relentless. Every time you choose discipline over ease, you make it harder for anything in life to break you. The people who dominate in life aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who can take failure, pain, and struggle and keep going anyway. They're the ones who refuse to quit no matter how hard it gets. They're the ones who embrace the grind because they know that growth is forged in adversity, controlled hardship. That's one of the best ways to develop mental toughness. Wake up earlier than you want to. Push yourself physically past your comfort zone. Take on challenges that scare you. Do the things you don't feel like doing over and over again until discomfort becomes your normal. Most people think toughness is something you're born with. It's not. It's a skill. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, if you don't train it, it stays weak. But if you put it under stress, if you push it beyond what's comfortable, it grows. It adapts. It becomes stronger. If you want to be the kind of person who never quits, you must prove it to yourself daily. You must show yourself through action that you can handle more than you think, that you are not controlled by discomfort, that you can push past mental and physical limits. But here's the mistake most people make. They think toughness is built in extreme moments, but it's not. It's built in the small daily choices. The choice to wake up on time, the choice to train even when you're tired, the choice to stay focused even when distractions are tempting. Those small choices add up. They create a mindset that does not break under pressure. They create a mind that stays strong even when the world throws everything it's got at you. And here's something the greatest athletes, the most successful entrepreneurs, the highest achievers in the world all have in common. They can endure, they can suffer, they can face rejection, setbacks, and failure, and keep going anyway. And that's what makes them unstoppable. If you want to master daily excellence, you must train your mind to be stronger than your emotions. You must learn to push through discomfort, to take action even when you don't feel like it, to show up at a high level even when things aren't going your way. That's the mindset that separates the elite from the average. And that's what will make you unstoppable. Now, in closing, remember, excellence is not something you chase. It's something you become every single day. Because every day you are either reinforcing habits of mediocrity or training yourself for greatness. There is no in between. You're either making excuses, hesitating, lowering your standards, or you're building discipline, mastering your focus, and taking relentless action. And that's the difference. The difference between those who win and those who don't. It's not luck. It's not natural talent. It's not intelligence. It's the daily commitment to excellence. It's the choice to show up and operate at a high level, no matter the circumstances, no matter the obstacles, no matter how you feel in the moment. Because success is not about what you do once. It's about what you do every single day. It's about how you wake up in the morning. It's about how you guard your focus. It's about the discipline you enforce, the standards you uphold, and the way you carry yourself even when no one is watching. Excellence is not a skill. It's an identity. And the moment you decide to make it a way of life, everything changes. Your confidence grows. Your results accelerate. Your mindset strengthens. You stop being controlled by distractions, hesitation, or temporary emotions. You start leading your life with purpose, execution, and an unshakable commitment to mastery. The people who succeed, they're not waiting for the perfect moment. They're not waiting to feel motivated. They're not waiting for permission. They make the decision right now to operate at a higher level, to set the standard, to show up differently. And that decision is yours to make. You don't need more time. You don't need more information. You don't need to wait for anything else. The only thing that matters is what you do today. The action you take, the standards you enforce, the way you execute right now. So here's the question. Will you choose excellence? Not just today, not just when it's easy, every single day, because that's the only way to win. And once you make that decision, nothing can stop you.